Hey everyone, Sejr here. I finally finished my cards for May 2020 Scrapping for Less card kit. I did finish them a while back. It's just making the video does take a little bit of time. So without wasting too much time, I just want to say awesome kit, loved it, and I can't wait to show you the cards. And we'll start with card number 1. Okay, so for the first one, I am going to follow the sketch on that was provided. I decided this kit I will follow the sketches for all 4 of them, and then the 5th one I'll do something a little different. So I'm just going through all the different pattern papers that came in this kit, playing around with all the embellishments, looking around and seeing which ones I want to work with. I do narrow it down to those 2 right here, the green stripes and this really awesome retro color. I am following the sketch pretty closely, so the retro colored one is rounded, and it is about 2 inches by 3¼ inch. And then for the background, I have cut that into 2 separate pieces because I'm going to put something in the center. And they're roughly about 4 inches by 2¼ inches. So now I'm just playing around and seeing how I'm going to position it, and then I decided to choose a color for the matte. And I did go with the yellow that did come in the card kit. I did take a circle die that was part of Lawn Fun's double stitch die, and I'm going to stamp Don't Stop Believing, which is a sentiment that came in the stamp pad. I do have these new inks that I purchased, Fresh Pink or Pink Fresh, I think something along those lines. And I tried to find a color that matched the red in the pattern paper on the top. So there we go, Don't Stop Believing. It fits pretty snug, not bad. And so now I'm just going to keep playing with it. You'll notice that I'm always constantly playing with the positioning of the paper, just because I want to keep seeing it evolve, and sometimes things change. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to heat emboss this really awesome Bigfoot. And the reason I'm heat embossing, you'll probably see me do this in all the cards, actually I do it for all the cards, is because on all my past videos and cards I make, I keep touching the ink and then the ink gets everywhere. So my solution to this for now is heat emboss everything with clear embossing powder. And now that ink doesn't go anywhere. So it really worked. I had no ink anywhere on my cards from stamping, except when I was doing something else, and you'll see later, but not from this. So I am using some Copic markers. These come in a collection, I think they're called facial tones, so they come in some browns and pinks. And I'm just going to use lightest all around, use a darker one, and I don't have the numbers with me, sorry, the darker ones in the area, and then I'm just going to, I think it says E15 for lightening up a bit. The problem with this was, for some reason, this particular marker started bleeding, like it was really pouring out the ink, so I had to get some paper towel and soak that up. But it was just that one. I don't know if it's a heat thing or if I didn't use it enough. I'm not sure. Never seen that happen before. And now I'm just taking that lightest marker again, which is E13, and I'm just going over the whole picture again, just to smooth out all those colors. This guy is just adorable. I love him. I do have a blending brush, which I'm using just to push away the colors that bled onto the white space. And that works pretty well in this case. I just push it aside, and then I can now use my other colors. In this case, I think I'm holding on the cap, but this is the skin color, not E11. E11 is the darker one. And just adding some shading, just a little bit to highlight all the different areas. Oh, there we go, E00. So it's a pretty light, pale color. Then I just added some little rosy cheeks, not too much. Then I switched to my Nuvo alcohol markers because I have a whole bunch of those. in the colors that I wanted to use, trying to find colors that match that paper. So the yellow and the orange, and then the red, which is not a Nuvo product. That one snuck in there. I'm just going to fussy cut him out, and I'm going to put him in position. And this is where I start thinking about switching it up. I really love these chalk hearts, and the black on the green just look really nice. So I decided that I'm going to grab a white gel pen, and I'm just going to write the exact same sentiment that I had stamped. So don't stop believing. The reason I started on the bottom was so that I could fit it exactly centered on the heart. So it's easier to use the longer word first and then work your way around that. At least that's what works for me. So I just used that white gel pen, wrote that, and then added some little decals, little stars and dots, just to fill in that black space. Taking some of that yellow cardstock that comes in the kit, the same one that I used for matting the retro piece of paper, and I'm going to cut that down and use that as the filler in between the two green. The idea was to use some LoveFromLizi peel-offs. I love those things. And I thought I had a green, but it turns out I don't have the right color green. And you'll see what I do. I think I'm talking too fast for this video. So I'm just going to glue these down, and I will cut some strips. There they are. So white pieces of paper. This comes from the card kit. I just cut some, maybe 1/8 of an inch. And I'm taking some key lime ink from my Pink Fresh ink pads or ink cubes I just purchased. I don't need to fill them all in, and because I'm going to trim them down, but I just want to make sure that enough is covered. And the nice thing about this is the ink dries immediately fast. So once again, there's no inky paper everywhere. I don't know if you actually caught what I had done when I finished. It was I put it upside down and pressed it on the paper. If you caught that, that's exactly why. So this green is still a little bit dark. It was the lightest one that seemed to match. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some vintage photo, and I didn't know if this would work, but I decided to go for it and just kind of brown it up a bit. I want to see if this turned more of a dark olive color. And you know what? It wasn't too bad. There are some spots that I got a little heavy, but I'm going to cover those. And it's not that, actually it turned out pretty well. It's a nice dark contrast. In fact, I can tell you now, looking at it in front of me, that dark green really lightened up when it dried. So it looks extremely dark there, which was my worry when I was making the card. But I'm looking at it now, and it's not that dark. Maybe just imagine that being wet, and when it dries, it's lighter. That's kind of what seemed to have happened. So the final, it's good to know that these do dry lighter. And so instead of them being stickers, I just have to glue them down myself, and this behaves almost like LoveFromLizi peel-off stickers, which is nice if you don't happen to have the right color you need. I'm taking that vintage photo, and I am going to go around that yellow card just to kind of match the brown that for the strips that I did the same thing. Now, following the sketch, I am placing this all in order, I guess you can say. So I did center it a bit, and I'm just going to raise it up to give it a little more dimension. Then I'm going to take some of those really awesome I keep calling them hearts, flower embellishments, and stick them right in the corner to complete the design. And that's it for card number 1. Very simple, cute, I love it. Okay, card number 2, sketch number 2. This is definitely my favorite pattern paper collection this month. I just love the antique, grungy, not grungy, but distressed pictures. It's just so awesome. Which is funny is I didn't actually use a lot of the paper. So anyways, following the sketch, I picked out the two pieces that I like. I love these lemon slices. They're adorable. And then it just looked amazing with this blue polka dotted paper. Looking at it now, it kind of makes me think of like bubbles in lemonade or something. Of course, it's blue lemonade, but it's just really beautiful pattern paper. I can't stress that enough. I took the stamps, the lemon slices, which is you can actually use as lime and oranges actually. So it's pretty versatile in the citrus fruits. And then I took the flowers too, and I stamped them 3 times each. Once again, off camera, I did heat emboss them so that I don't get the ink everywhere. And it also just gives you that nice dimension. So it's not like it's making it worse, right? It's the extra step is nice. And I wasn't sure if I was going to use all 3, so I'm just going to color all of them. And mainly the reason I do this is because if I make a mistake, then I have backups. That's the gist of it. And normally I don't color on camera, but right now I'm at 41 minutes, and we can always fast forward if you want. But I just find sometimes watching people color relaxing. Hopefully my voice is relaxing as well. I don't want to cause any stress. But I did have to Google search those flowers because I did not know what they look like. But I used the blue and the pinks for the blue for the white, and then I did add some pink and yellow for the centers. And they look pretty similar to how they looked in the photo that I was looking at. So I was pretty happy with that. Okay, so I got my card base, and I'm just going to start positioning these pattern papers in place. And so the blue one is a 1.75 by 5 inch, and because I don't have an oval die cut, I did cut that square. I'm going to say maybe about 3 inches. I have a ruler right here. 2 3/4. I was close. Okay, so I did take the sentiment "Squeeze the Day," which I thought was pretty fitting, and I fishtailed it and stuck it to a piece of the blue cardstock that came in the kit. And I'm just going to use that as my sentiment, and I trimmed the end of it off so that it goes flush right to the card, so I won't see the blue on the end. Now I'm going to take the same rounded corner punch, because I actually really liked it when I did it for the first card, and I'm going to do it again. It kind of gives you a mason jar look now, a mason jar of lemons, maybe preserved lemons, I don't know. It's oh my goodness, so cute. I just love it. And I am thinking about matting all the pieces, but I'm only going to matte the blue one just to give it a little more dimension, a little more color. And I'm just going to layer this all together. Constantly playing with positioning to see what changes. Every time you add a new piece, I just like to double check to see, because things will change. They will go in a different direction. You just have to allow it. But so far, still following the sketch pretty well. And that looks pretty good. I like that. There's a lot of white space, but it looks pretty good. Now I am looking to see if I can fill in that white space, even though I just said it looks good. But I won't use any of these. I'm just testing. I'm just playing around to see if anything looks good. The first one was too green. This is way too much yellow. And then I try one more with I love this piece of paper, but once again, too busy. So I won't. I stick to the white. And I think that was a good choice, in my opinion. Now I'm just playing around with the placement of the lemon slices and the flowers. And I was thinking about putting them all on the side there. I thought that looked pretty good, so now I'm going to start gluing everything down. And once again, following the kit, or following that pattern really closely. I'm going to put this one up a little in the center. maybe a little bit up further. And just, if you notice what I just did there was I took a piece of scrap paper and I just put on the back because the layers on the left are matted. So I just want to give it a little bit of lift so that it's not sagging on the paper. It'll be nice and flat. Doing the exact same thing with the sentiment. I'm taking a piece of scrap paper and just on the bottom half where it's now not touching the pattern paper, I want to lift so it doesn't sag. Once again, like I said, every time you make a change, you have to position the things. And what I realized by doing this was I actually liked them on scattered. I didn't want them all on one side. This kind of just gave it a little bit, filled it in a little bit more. So I'm going to glue down all my lemon slices. And then for the flowers, I will prop them up with some foam squares that I got from scrapbook.com. These ones are pretty small. I love these ones. They come in two sizes. They were big and these tiny ones. So I'm not sure the dimensions, but three of them fit on each flower. And that looks pretty nice. And like I said, because I heat embossed it, it does have that nice shine to it. I was thinking about using some of these. I always forget about the sequences, so I try to put in there, but this is good. I like this. This is nice and simple and just a really nice summary card. For card number 3, I am going to follow sketch 3. However, I am not going to do a square card. I don't have square envelopes, so I always make A2 size cards. I'm looking through all the pattern paper. I love that Starburst one, but I couldn't put myself to cut that and wreck it. Not for this sketch. So I am not going to, and I put that aside and I grabbed some of the pattern papers that I think will work with me. And as you can see, I will use that blue orzo ribbon for the center. But for now, I'm going to fast forward this because with my previous other videos, I love stamping and cutting. I've done it many times, and it does take time. It's very tedious sometimes, but I just love doing it. So I will fast forward it. But what I've done is I'm going to take the cloud. I've created a mask in the corner there on a piece of scrap paper, and I'm going to cut that out. And then I'm going to put the rainbow into the clouds. Okay? And then I will heat emboss it once again, maybe off camera, and that's just so I don't spread any of that ink anywhere. I could, in case you're wondering, I could have used another ink pad, but it was just easier to use this one and do this. Actually, it was an extra step. It wasn't easier, but I just wanted to do it. You don't need to do this. You can use many other inks that dry immediately. For example, archival ink. I did use the archival ink for this one because I'm not going to heat emboss it. The reason I'm not a big fan of this one is because it doesn't have a nice clean, as you can see, it doesn't have a clean ink it doesn't create a solid lines very well. So as I was rambling, you can see that I've stamped this on every single color that I have. 2 of them came from my stash, which was the pink and the purple, but the other colors came in the kit. So if you don't have the other colors, you can definitely use just the ones that came in the kit and just make the lines thicker, and then you can draw the lines yourself. But if you have extra paper and stash, definitely feel free to do it, and you don't have to follow the colors I did. You can choose any colors. You can use pattern papers. In fact, lots of choices in this collection that you could have used, but I wanted to keep it solid. So I'm just being lazy and just using a pencil and guessing where to cut. If I had actually done this properly, I would have kept my mask, but I had thrown it in the garbage and I couldn't find it. So I did screw up on the blue one, so I will recut the blue one. See, there's a gap there. And but the other ones are pretty good. So just following the sketch, following the pattern of a rainbow. I believe I was using the example of one of the pattern papers, and I'm just going to fill them in. And for the blue, I will trace out the blue again on a piece of paper. Lazy. I'm not going to stamp it again. I'm just going to cut that out. Trimming it just so that it fits perfectly in that little spot. And I'm thinking it looks pretty nice. I love doing this. It's just so much fun. But you definitely need patience. If you don't have patience, I don't recommend doing this technique. Then I'm going to fussy cut this whole thing out. And I'm going to start darkening it up with a, the beginning I'm going to use a Sharpie. Just because it really works. First I'm going to use my gel pen and I'm going to darken all those lines. Because you don't see the heat embossing anymore because I covered it all. And then I use my Sharpie to just highlight everything so it gives it a nice black. The thing is, because I cut it myself and not use the dye, you just have to watch out that the white doesn't show through. So I'm just coloring everything, trying to get as much of that out. And there you go. Not too bad. Okay, so now I'm going to start trimming my pieces of paper. And for the bottom piece, it will be, I believe, maybe 5 1/4 by 2 1/8. And then the top piece, which I keep changing, it looks like my mind on which one I want to use. The top piece will be 5 1/4 by 3 1/4. So I still haven't finalized on what's the top piece I'm going to use because I keep playing with different choices. I want to make sure I pick a good one. But I will settle with the polka dots. I think that's just really cute. The polka dots gives you a lot of white space still because that bottom piece is very bright, very bold. So I don't want to take away from it, but it kind of spreads that color up while creating a lot of white space. I'm taking that ribbon and I'm going to do something a little different. I didn't like the clear center. So I'm going to use some double-sided tape and I'm going to stick that to the very top of the bottom layer. And then I'm going to just wrap that around so that it doesn't come undone. So just using a little bit of extra tape just to fold it back. This will create a thickness. It will lift up the paper, but I'm not too worried about it. But you definitely can play with that to make sure it doesn't do that. But I didn't like the looks of that. For some reason, I wanted it filled in. So I'm going to take another piece of this, but I'm just playing around with how I can do it because I want to create a little bit of dimension since I'm filling it in. And I did try overlapping it, but I didn't like that. It was too thick. So what I've decided to do is I decided that I'm going to cut a strip and I'm going to fold it in half. So I'll take a piece of that double-sided tape, I'll put it along the whole top of it, and then I will fold this in half. So it's going to be the length. It's going to be a little bit longer than the length of the solid strip, just because it's going to hang over. Like that mesh in the center is going to be drooping a little bit. And then I'm going to use that and glue it into the center. So that will close off the mesh gap and give it a little bit of a texture of a layer. Like that. And I'll just fold that. I didn't need to fold it behind. It did create a little bit more thickness in the back, but that's okay. I just want to make sure that it doesn't lift on me. So I like that. What I should have done though was I should have taken that top piece and merged it together on that ribbon instead of just doing what I've done, because you can tell that the ribbon doesn't go around. It would have been nice if it looked like the ribbon went around both pieces of paper. So if you are to create a similar card, I would just maybe try wrapping that ribbon around both. Otherwise, it just looks like on the side, if you look from the side, which I'm doing right now, yeah, it just, you can tell it's wrapped around just the bottom. Okay, so the sketch does have a rectangle in the center. So I took one of my stitch dies and cut it out of the blue piece of paper. This was one of the pattern papers in this collection, not the blue paper that came in the kit. I'm going to take the sentiment, after every storm there is a rainbow, and I'm going to heat emboss that. Sorry about that. Okay, so what I realized is that my circle is not large enough, so I'm going to trim down that blue one because I want the circle to hang over. And the reason I chose the yellow, which is the same color from the card kit, or the same yellow that I used previously, and it's in the card kit, it kind of just resembles the sun. So I have a blue sky, the sun, and the rainbow. That's what I'm going for. And I'm just positioning. The small rectangle definitely looks a lot better. It's not taking away from the circle. I took some spiced marmalade and I'm just going to edge around the whole circle to give it a little bit more sun, I guess you could say. It just makes it look like it's nice glowing amber sun. I just definitely love that look when you're wanting to do anything that looks like a sun. Just take a little bit of spiced marmalade and just to stress the sides of it. Now I'm going to glue that rainbow onto the circle and use some foam adhesive just because that blue rectangle was propped up. And the reason I propped it up was because of that ribbon and to give it some dimension. So there's always a method to the madness. Using the Spectrum Noir pen, just adding some glitter. Love this pen. I will say though that it does come off. If you were to touch it with your finger, it does come off. Fast forwarding a lot. I'm just showing you my thought process with the sequences. These came from the banana split package, and so I was just figuring out where I want to place them, and this is where they ended up being, and I really like just the extra sparkle on this piece of paper. Really like this card. It's very festive, very summery, very just beautiful. Love this. Okay, card number 4, pattern number 4. I got to play with these absolutely adorable ephemera. The color, the shapes, ladybugs, oh, so cute. So once again, just playing with, looking through all the different patterns, which one I want to use. This was a tough one because I see the black hatched paper. I really love that, and I really liked it on the leaves. However, the reverse side was just as beautiful, and I actually had a hard time. I took it all out of the video. See right there, the green polka dot or that one. And I really love both of them. However, in the end, I felt that the green would work the best. So that's what I did. Definitely let me know if you thought this is better. I'd love to know what other people think. But I just felt the green didn't stand out as much because I am going to be adding red as well. So I didn't want too much contrast, or too much distraction, I should say. So that red card stock that I matted is from the card kit. It's the Wild Cherry. And I just matted a square. The square that I used is not the same size as the sketch because I don't have that size. This is just a random square stitch die that I had. Now because this design has a lot of black and red, I wanted to add the black to everything. So normally you do this, I've seen people do this with vintage photo, just to distress everything, just so that it creates, instead of matting, for example, you can do this. But I decided to use black instead, the black soot, and I'm just coloring everything. And this is where I said I did get ink on my fingers. So whenever I do a distressing like this, I do get ink on my fingers, and black is a terrible one to have on your fingers. So if you saw me, I was trying to be very careful not to get black on that leaf pattern paper. I loved it. I didn't want to ruin it. Luckily, a lot of it is covered with a lot of layers, so it wouldn't have been too bad. But just, it's good practice to get used to having inky fingers and knowing how to touch your paper without transferring it. This crochet thread came in this collection, and I'm just going to wrap it around 3 times. This left an itsy bitsy little teeny piece of thread left that I had a heck of a time trying to make a bow out of, but I was successful. But sadly, it was off camera because I was just, I really had to get it right to my face. My fingers aren't that nimble with knot tying. So I am using some, I don't usually use the tape to mat, but I am in this case because I have the ribbon, or the thread. And I don't want that thread to go, so I'm going to make sure that it's completely covered. Then I'm going to pop that up with some foam tape from scrap.com, and I'm going to center that in the card. So you can't really tell, but it is red, but with the black outline, or the black distressed all around the whole edge. That's why it's kind of darker than normal. Now I'm playing with the ephemera. Love this ephemera, and I'm glad you get so many pieces because you can make more than one card. But I decided for the sentiment, I'll use the Ladybug Hugs for the sentiment, and then this way I don't have to use up the sentiment for my stamp pad. It's just a cheating way, no, sorry, not a cheating way, it's just a quick way to get a card going. And that's definitely not a problem. Sometimes we want to create a card really quickly, and when we can use ephemeras with sentiments already on them, it's just perfect. So definitely nothing wrong with it. I was just being silly to fill up time as I talk. Sometimes I don't know what to say, so I just say silly things. So I did distress all these with some black ink once again. And I'm just going to prop some of these up because the back of it is lifted. So I just need to get some of those smaller squares and just lift it up. But what I realized with the red one was that it is, because the left side has that extra layer, it does touch, but on the right side that circle layer is not there. So I actually had to layer it twice. And that was a little bit too thick, but it was better than, see, it's not sticking, it's not even touching. So the extra layer did push it up. You can see, I showed you. It does lift it up a little bit too high, but not too bad. It's pretty good. Now I'm going to put that little cute butterfly. Oh, and then I'm just going to put that right in the center, and then get my sentiment and just layer that a little bit. So behind the red, on top of the black a little bit. Okay, and to finish this off, I'm going to use the 2 little red ladybugs just to fill in some of the space, and then the bow. See, I cut it all out because it took a while. It's just the tiniest little bow, and I used the whole remaining of the thread, which was not much at all. The glue doesn't work, so I am going to grab some of these sticky dots, and I just cut like maybe a quarter of the dot. You don't need the whole thing, just for this tiny bow. This bow is really small. And I'm just going to position it. Those dots are really hard to work with something like this. Just have to make sure you don't touch too much and pull too much, otherwise your hard work bow will go undone. And then using some of these beautiful army green enamel dots just to finish the card. And that's my ephemera ladybug card. Nice and green and beautiful. Okay, card number 5. This is using just random pieces from the card kit. That sun die is something that I sell on my Etsy, and someone had ordered them, and I accidentally ripped it when I was taking it off the pad. So I decided that I would use it for this card. I really didn't want to waste it. It's about 6 inches wide. And so I wanted to use it for this card. And because this card kit came with some beautiful colors, I decided to try to create another rainbow-ish type card. by having sun ray, would you call that a starburst or sun ray background? Something along those lines. Using the card kit. But you definitely didn't have to use those. You can use any of the pattern papers. There's lots of choices. Even the lemonade one or the lemon pattern paper would be awesome on this. You can switch between the blues and the yellows. I am going to use some LoveFromLizi white solid pins. I think they're called straight peel-offs, and that's because since I don't have a die to do this, I cut this all by measuring. They're not perfectly even, so I want to fill in those uneven gaps with a solid piece of paper, or sorry, sticker. I could have done the same thing and just grabbed a piece of white paper and glued it on, but it's much easier using LoveFromLizi stickers, peel-offs, just because they're sticky and you could just put them right on. Once again, I am going to fast forward this a lot, but I'm going to add that spiced marmalade to the sun just because I absolutely loved it when I did it with the circle on card number 3. And it's going to cover the whole thing with just that nice orange glow. This yellow paper is definitely a lot brighter than the one that came in the card kit. So it didn't have the golden look, but it still stood out pretty nicely. And I'm just going to glue that right in the center of the card. I can definitely see improvements for this card. Oh, just so you know, the reason I did that was because I had inky yellow fingers. So it's a nice trick is just use a piece of scrap paper and just press down so you don't transfer any of that ink. Or if you feel confident that the ink is dry on your hands. But I'm never confident anymore. But yeah, there's definitely improvement you can do with this card. Thinking about it now, I could have added some distress to the layers in the background just so that wasn't solid. It does look a little flat, but definitely a lot of things you can do with this type of card. Okay, now to talk about this. This is the die that comes in for the banana split. Really adorable, loved it. The problem was I didn't think about how it was positioned until after I had made the card. You got this, awesome sentiment, but look at that. It doesn't work. That UI is too low. And I didn't want, nowhere where I put it, it looked good except there. And so I stood there for a while thinking, oh shoot, how am I going to do this? I really love the sentiment. I've made this card specifically for the sentiment. What am I going to do? So I grabbed the scissors and I think, how about if I just cut the Y off? Well, can I get the Y off and position it differently? The answer is no. That did not look good at all. Awful. I didn't like it. Not enough white. In the distance it looks okay, but no, it doesn't. It doesn't look good. I'm just trying to make myself feel better. So then I think, oh shoot, how would I put this back together again? Then I realized, you know what, let's just keep cutting. I'm going to cut the O off, and I'm just going to keep the U, because you can still use U as in U, and just make it into a shorter sentiment. So you got this. It still says you got this. I'm just going to try to trim it a little bit so that no one notices too much that that's not how it's supposed to be. And it actually fits perfectly in the center of the sun. So, yay. So I'm just going to prop that up, and I'm going to put that in the center of the sun where you've seen it before. So that is pretty good. I'm not going to distress it in any way. I'm just going to leave it the way it is, just the black on the white. If you feel like you want to distress it, in fact, if you did distress it, it would definitely hide the where I cut a lot better. So if you did the orange, same Spice Marmalade, for example, or even Vintage Photo or anything, it would hide the cutting a lot better. Now I'm really fast forwarding it again to show all the sequences that I pulled out. These are Doodlebug sequences and sequences that came in the kit. I'm not sure if I like what I did. In my head, it looked really awesome, but the execution looks kind of sparse. I just imagine this beautiful sequence card that faded out. But I think you need a lot of different shapes of sequence to pull that off, and all mine are the same size. So I just picked the colors that matched and then glued them on. Then I took that Spectrum Noir glitter or shimmer pen and just filled in that sentiment, you got this, just to make it shine a little more. And that's pretty much all for that card. Lots of shimmer, lots of sparkle. It is fairly simple. Definitely a lot of things you can work with on this if you wish to do something similar. Okay, so that's the end of my 5 cards. I'm just going to show you one more time in real time what the cards look like. Try to catch all those glimmers and sparkles and heights and everything. Try my best. And you can see all of my clear embossing for all the sentiments. Too funny. Anyways, I really love this card kit. I wish if anyone hadn't got it that they could still buy it. It has a lot of fun elements to it, lots of bright colors, just lots of different things to play with. So I think there's a little bit for everyone in this card kit, and I think that's nice when you have a card kit with so many choices. It just makes it so versatile. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe it created some inspiration for your own cards. Definitely a lot of fun, and I'm so glad you joined me on this, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have yourself a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later.